Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Love by Life. We're your hosts. I'm Rafaela and this is Hannah. And welcome. I don't know what's going to come through today, but it's been really interesting over the last week since we talked about the 34th that led us into the 35th now. So if you're new here, Hannah and I talk about the gene keys, our experience with the gene keys, are kind of going on a journey ourselves. And we've, brought you guys along, whoever's here listening, thank you. And this week we're on gene key 33. Sorry, 36. No, 35. um,
It's so funny. I'm excited for this one because this is your evolution, isn't it? This is your personality Earth in human design, the 35th.
Yeah.
And so it's the programming partner of the 5th.
Mhm.
And it's part of the cross of consciousness, which is your incarnation cross.
Yeah.
I really want to hear a lot about what you think about this one.
Yeah, well, I want to say, so for anybody who's into human design, or if you're new, just for reference, your personality Earth is your evolution. It's what you're here to learn. This is mine. And yeah, you'll just pretty much on any chart you look up, it'll be the second number on the right side down. That will be what your personality Earth is. And so for me, well, it's the gift of adventure and the shadow of hunger. And at the Siddhi, it's bountiness, boundlessness. Okay. Yeah. So what?
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I just loved, there was one bit that really stood out to me. He said something like, the heart knows no bounds. And that just stuck out to me. Like, that's really what the Siddhi represents, just like this boundless love from the heart.
Yeah.
But yeah, go on. I want to
Well,
hear.
no bounds, pure, unconditional, like no limit. Those are all kind of some things that I think about, but I don't even know where to really begin. My experience with the 35th. So it's a gate, it's a frequency and energy that comes from the throat. And in reading and gathering all that I can or have about this frequency, a lot of things have come to me, like the reactive nature and the repressed nature. So here we're talking about the shadow of hunger, and it's like this idea of like being fulfilled or satiated. And he talks a little bit about, how maybe some patterns of addiction can come up here because we're constantly going towards wanting this fulfillment. And he talks about the neurotransmitter of serotonin. And the reactive nature of this is manic. So it's like this kind of quick energy, I would say. I can't even really remember how he describes it, but manic, and then the repressed is boredom. And this week I've like really experienced both sides of this frequency of gate 35, in the sense that like I noticed, so we're reading, right? And I'm taking it in, and I've been really looking forward to this one because it's, my evolution, what I'm here to learn. And I have noticed this past week that I really love adventure. And sometimes it manifests as change in the sense of progression. And that's what the I Ching calls it, is easy progress. Yeah, progress. And I've thought about like different experiences in my life because it's also a very experiential energy. So it's kind of this idea of like going through experiences, having experiences, whether going into them, you know, from the heart, or maybe going into them from fear, or maybe impulsive, or whatever, you know, it is a channel that on the other end, which the next one is 36, it is the whole channel. And that one comes out of the solar plexus. So I've noticed that there's this like, there's always been this constant desire to want to have experiences, to want to progress in life, to want to experience different things. And recently I came across this pattern. I became more aware of it in reading and sitting and contemplating with the 35th this week, of so subtle. Like, I didn't even really know that I was bored with an area of my life until I was planning an action that then confronted some honesty that I didn't want to confront. And for obvious reasons, I'm being vague about the situation because it's a personal one.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, that's what it showed up as, like, oh, I'm wanting to have this experience in my life for progression, you know,
Mm.
that is true. But there is this like very subtle experience of like, oh wait, but am I also wanting this experience because I'm bored with
Yeah.
something? And I don't know if you relate to that just in general.
Well, I relate to both of those shadow frequencies, like the repressed and the reactive. And I thought it was really interesting when you were explaining them, how in both instances there's like a lack of fulfillment.
Mhm,
So when you're bored, you're feeling like things aren't exciting enough. There's no adventure, there's no like fulfillment or joy or any of that. And then when you're manic, it's like maybe you're doing lots of things, but there's no actual fulfillment in the doing of the things. It's just like going from one thing to the next to try and get like a quick fix.
mhm.
And I thought it was really interesting reading the gate, the human design gate, the gate of change. And it's part of the channel of transitoriness. And it mentioned something about, like these quick um, like filling the hunger, just like these quick little transitory kind of, I guess, yeah, like satiate. I don't know how to explain it, satiation, but it's not a lasting fulfillment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so to talk a little bit of like, and, and since coming into human design, I've become like, I've noticed, I don't think I've actually had like the clinical experience of like mania, but I have said a few times in the last couple years, like I almost feel manic. Like I feel so excitable and almost impulsive sometimes, where it has this flavor of feeling just very intense in that kind of way. And there's something that I'm,
That like hunger,
say that again.
in order to kind of fill that hunger or that void. Is that how it
Well,
feels?
I don't know if it's maybe it's to fill a hunger. It's to fill like a deep wanting of experience. That's what it is for me. And it's kind of like a backbone into why I jump into um different things in my life that I believe put some progression, like
Mm,
um changing my environments often has come from this feeling, and maybe not always like a boredom, but like I have this tendency, I notice, to like want to change things. It's like I get really disrupted with change, but yet I also want to change them, and I think that why I want to change them is because I do have this, this 35th that is very prominent in my experience, um that wants the adventure part of change. When the decision was made to move across country, like, it was quick. It was
mm,
super quick. And one of the things I've learned with the 35th is that you have to create space in your life in order for the miracles to occur, in order for like the quantum leaps to happen. And every time that I kind of like work with my fifth of having patience and my and rhythm and routine, and going through a cycle, most times on the other end of that, I'm hitting some kind of moment where I'm like having to take a new leap. Um, so that kind of happened with the move of coming over here. That's happened with like me um leaving certain jobs at times. Um, but yeah, there's just this feeling of like, or even just wanting to experience different things, like going into different trainings or workshops or coaching or therapies or um just any sort of things that I feel like would progress my life. And so this past week, I sort of experienced and witnessed what it's like to um, want to take action from this feeling of boredom, and then also kind of wanting to take action from this feeling of mania almost. Like there was so much excitement that fueled my body. I couldn't really focus. Like I
Mm.
couldn't, and it was great, right? Like I'm like, wow, this is amazing. But something that I also kind of recognized is that, and side note real quick, like when you're getting into human design and I feel like this is a part of layering. I'm not just seeing one part of the chart. And I don't know if we've talked about this before. Maybe we have like seeing all of it. And I think a recent, yeah,
Yeah.
a recent Gene Key kind of talked about viewing the whole. And I say that because I've gotten to know my fifth very well and how that helps me. And now contemplating even more as we have with the 35th now, I can see that how both of these play, but then adding another layer and recognizing, oh wait, but what's my strategy and authority?
Mm.
Because I'm not really meant to like just take action because something is really exciting or because something is boring.
Mm.
I'm like really meant to sort of go through, like not go through, but um kind of take action when there's a real like motivation and desire and wanting something that I have like the drive for. So I like reeled it all back and I'm like, okay, slow down. And that's what I kind of came to this conclusion of like whether I do this thing that I've come across this past week right now is not my it's not my job to like act on it. And it is a manifested energy. I noticed that this channel is like a manifested energy. So, if I wanted to, I could just initiate it. And I'm
Mm.
trying to really be sort of more aware of like how all of this feels like energetically and sitting with it, um so that I have a reference point for what it feels like when I'm experiencing the 35th. I think that that is something that like we have all of these parts of the chart and all of these different gene keys, but until you have like an opportunity like we have of going through being literally on a journey with the gene keys, you say
Yeah,
that,
an adventure.
an adventure, right? It
Mm.
just gives me some more to like to sit with, to know, to like play with, to experiment with. And I think that's just been really fun. So I mean that's a lot of what I've gotten so far.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's really interesting the interplay between the programming partners.
Hmm.
And it's funny because they're on opposite sides of the what do you call it? The wheel, the mandala, the
Yeah.
mandala. So for anyone curious, like wherever you have one of the, so let's just use like your personality sun as an example. So Rafa has the fifth, which I can't see, it's probably down here. Oh no, it's up here.
Identity. Yeah. Oh, in the thing. Yeah.
So the opposite one will be on the, like the programming partner will be on the opposite side. So they are kind of like opposites, but they have, and I really liked this, I highlighted this bit that he said, you know, they have this biofeedback loop that keeps you operating at the shadow frequency. But then I think also the same thing happens when you kind of you transcend up to the gift frequency. They like feed off each other. So it is your very impatience that fuels your hunger, and your hunger that fuels your impatience, a classic biofeedback loop that keeps human beings operating at the shadow frequency. And this other bit, we are a hungry and unfulfilled species. We don't know what we want, but we want it now.
Yeah, that's me.
It's just so funny. Like I've contemplated this a lot with my own programming, you know, my own life's work and evolution. And you know, the shadow frequencies feed one another, fuel one another.
Mhm.
And so too do the gifts. Like for me, it's the shadow of seriousness and the shadow of constriction. I'm noticing how the interplay between those two, and then the gift of delight and acceptance, how that, you know, acceptance feeds delight, and vice versa. So it's just so interesting how they work together.
Mm.
Mm.
The way you said it, it reminds me, like it brings me to times in my life where my my hunger and my impatience are totally fueling like this this desire for something is fueling my impatience and like the hunger for it, and it just keeps going. And I don't know whether it was like, I can't remember where I read this, and maybe you'll help me once I say it, but my my job really is to not think that I'm going to get somewhere. I'm gonna reach this destination sometime in the future. So it's very interesting. And I don't know if you read Jenna Zoe's tip for the week.
I didn't read the tip. I listened to the latest new paradigm workshop, but I didn't.
Mm.
Yeah.
So she has this tip for this week of uh where are we? What was it? The first? This week started with the first. I don't know, it's different for you than for me. But anyway, the point is that she was saying, like, really, we're gonna have to get a bit existential and like find the moments in our current life that resemble like what we really want, and like feel into that from a heart and our soul place. And for many of you who know, like I'm also doing the artist way right now, and we're coming up on week 6. And it's just very, I mean, I'm not surprised anymore, but I just been describing this week as like magical, despite the difficulty that I've witnessed and experienced within myself. I've also seen how magical it is because of really the amount of synchronicity, like between all of these different things that I'm looking at, and then the detail in my life of how it's relating. I mean, it's just it's making me realize what that statement really means of being with your life right now, finding the moments that resemble what you desire and like what you really want, and feeling into that. So for example, like I do have this adventure of like I'm noticing like I'm ready to kind of like make some movement in an area of my life, and it feels like it can be an adventure, and so I want it, right? But not being impatient with it and like acting and making it wanting it right now, and then taking this layer of like, okay, well, how do I create the space and the moments to witness how this actually falls into my life right now. And the other day I was like sitting on the couch, and Travis had left for work, and I was having just some warm lemon water, and it was very like I had a moment of just to myself feeling at peace. And I really just took it in. I was like, oh, this is luxury. And
Mm,
whether that adventure, that thing that I want happens or doesn't happen, like, this is what I want. So I kind of just took a moment to tap into that. And I had another experience today where like I created an opportunity for the other thing that I want, like a piece of it being able to happen now.
mm.
And it's just these little moments of like really recognizing like this hunger is there. Like for me, it's just a natural thing. You know, I want this wanting of progression, but being careful and mindful of not being like impatient with it and impulsive with it, and seeing how I can create the dream in the present, really. And that's been pretty fun.
So I think what you're talking about is like this notion of, well, on the shadow side, arrival fallacy, like thinking
Mm,
that
yes.
future or getting something in the future will make us happy or
Right.
fulfilled.
Right.
And so on the other side of it, sort of like in manifestation, the law of assumption, like acting as if you already have it,
Yeah.
or like even deeper than that, like just being the frequency of what you want to attract. And you know, I've been listening to a lot of Joe Dispenza again recently. I go through phases where I get really into the, you know, his work or someone else's like similar kind of work. And just recently I've been feeling drawn to like read his books again and listen to some of his podcasts. And it's like accessing that coherent heart frequency, like in the quantum field. So
Mhm.
not looking at the conditions. And I know Abraham Hicks talks about this as well. Like
Yeah.
everyone is kind of saying the same thing in just a different way, but it's like just getting back to that unconditional love, that frequency of unconditional love, and not like looking at your outside circumstances to dictate how you feel, but like feeling that already,
Hmm.
and almost like allowing yourself that fulfillment in the present moment, regardless of what's happening
Yeah.
around you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, because I feel like you took my ramble and made it like clear. Yes, I mean, that's exactly essentially what my ramble was saying. Um, and there was another bit in the reading of your life being, I'm gonna find it, but it's basically saying like having
I know what you mean. Yeah.
an open heart, or like providing like unconditional love to as many areas of your life. Oh, I think it was at the end. Um, maybe not,
Well, he
but
also talks about how unique the 35th is, in that it is the only gene key that we actually like can influence our current reality, or something along those lines.
yes,
Do you remember that bit?
it's like the only one that you actually have control of.
Yeah. The 35th gift is the only place within all human DNA that human beings have a choice in how their reality is constructed. And adventure is what happens when the human spirit breaks free from the mind. Adventure is a state of being that comes from the realization of the oneness of all being.
Mhm. Mm.
Mm. To
And I,
live open heart is to live in a perpetual state of adventure.
yeah, and I feel as if that's kind of like a layer and a theme that's been throughout the majority of my life,
Mm.
is this like the way that I Ching describes it of like easy progress. Like, I don't know if I've said this on here before, or maybe I've shared it with you, but I used to get this reflection a lot where people would say to me, oh, you're so disciplined, or like you could like you that was the way that it was described often. Like you hit your goals, or like you just, yeah, like it was just reflected back so often. And I feel now that I'm seeing why that is, because of this like experience of the fifth and the 35th, like, and the fact that I am an ego manifester, and um, you know, just all of these different things have just made it so that, like, I've always believed I am in control of my life, and not in the sense of like I can dictate everything, but that I have the ability and the power to make sure that I live the life that I want to live. And I mean, I think that's why I've had a lot of experiences, and I genuinely enjoy them. Like, I enjoy doing breath work often. I enjoy meditating often. I enjoy working out. Like, now I'm learning some other things. Like, I'm really enjoying coloring, and
Yeah.
I'm really sticking with that. And, I just feel like I have this kind of quality of like, when I know I want something, I really go for it. And I mean, sometimes it does create an impatience in my, and then what I've noticed this week with this idea of hunger, like, where am I maybe trying to like satiate something that I'm not totally conscious of? Because that was a real thing. Like,
Mm.
the shadow did come up in a very confronting way. And honestly, now I'm very grateful for it. And I have a lot of people who have been able to like hold space for me, and for me to witness it. This has been a really, like, more so than any other one. It feels like deeply personal this
Mm.
this week and this Jinki.
Yeah.
Mhm. So,
Mm.
I mean, it's been fun.
Yeah, and I mean, I was going to say something else, but like now I just want to, yeah,
Mhm.
I don't have anything I want to say.
Yeah, I had a feeling like it would be a short one today,
Mm.
just
Yeah.
because, like, that's my bit on it. That's my story of it. And I once heard um this saying, like, where in your daily life can you create the adventure? And I
Mm.
think that when we ask ourselves that reflection, it kind of moves us a little further away from being in the shadow, because we're not sitting here like in that frequency of wanting to fulfill something. We're like taking a proactive measure, maybe coming with an open heart of like, ooh, like, what experience can I have today? And so, for anybody who's listening, if that's something you want to play with, like, I just encourage you, like, what adventure can you come in with, or come into today with an open heart? So,
I think that's beautiful. And I would add to that, that like, where can I find fulfillment in what I already have right here and now, and not need to look for it externally. I mean, he talks a lot at the start of this chapter about inner work and inner external progress and inner progress, and how so often in this modern world we put external progress at the cost of inner progress. And I think that that's like, yeah, it's just so beautiful, because like that's, I suppose, what it is to live with an open heart, is to like just be open to what's right here, and to know that you've got it all within. You don't need to look for it out, that fulfillment outside of you.
and it doesn't have to come in the future. It's not at some point in your life that you're gonna get there. Like, it really can
Yeah,
happen, like, right here, right now. Um,
because the future never comes. This is the only moment. This is your
right.
life.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is the adventure,
yeah.
this moment right here.
I feel like this has been an adventure today.
Thank you. Is there anything else that you feel like you'd like to share, or that you'd like me to ask you, or um, because it is such a personal one?
Um, No, not necessarily. I will say that next week is the 36th. And it's part of the channel, like you mentioned, the gate of transitoriness. So I'm curious, and I didn't get ahead of myself, but I am curious to see how now contemplating and being with this one will flavor or color the 36 and how they come together.
Yeah.
So
And you, just for everyone's context, you don't have the 36 defined because you are an ego manifester. So you have a open solar plexus.
yeah.
And so do I. Like I don't have either the 35th or the 36th. So it'd be interesting to look at that.
Yeah. Lots of fun.
Lots of fun.
Well,
Thank
thank you,
you.
everyone. Until next time.
Bye.